Most screenwriters struggle to finish their screenplay because they're following all this outdated advice that only makes the writing process harder for them. You've probably heard all of it, whether it's about structure, dialogue, or conflict, so much that it just blurs together. It's overwhelming, and worse, it paralyzes you so that you stay stuck and never realize what actually matters. That's why when I work with screenwriters, I help them cut through all the noise and just focus on the few things that actually move their screenplay forward. So in this video, I'm going to share the one piece of advice that makes the biggest difference, the only thing you really need to write a great screenplay. To start, think about Pulp Fiction. It's one of the most famous movies of all time. I probably mention it in every video I make, but there's so many things wrong with this movie, right? I mean, it starts at the ending, and then the middle is at the beginning. There's absolutely no chronological storytelling in this. There's also little things. Vincent Vega is arguably the main character, and yet by the end of the movie, he never even changes. But doesn't your character have to change? Obviously not. This movie breaks so many rules, and yet it's one of the most renowned movies of all time.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
Think about most of the rules that you hear, that every scene needs conflict, or that your dialogue needs to drive your story forward. I myself have given most of this advice, and I honestly agree with a lot of it, but the fact is, screenwriting is an art form. There are no rules. I had a student the other day who asked me if I thought it was okay for her to use a flashback in a certain way. But she had heard so many times that flashbacks are a big no-no. But the way she did it, it felt right in her story, and she liked it, so I told her to keep it. But what does this have to do with your screenplay? When you're writing, you're going to have a lot of thoughts about how bad your story is. You're going to worry about breaking the rules and making things right and pleasing other people. Ignore them. Because the things that are going to make your story stand out are what you do differently. Those things are what people are going to remember about your story. If you have an impulse to do something out of the ordinary, you should just do it. Just see how it goes. And if you don't like it later on, then you can just get rid of it. You're not locked into anything, but there's no risk testing a few things out.
The first key to writing is to write, not to think.
But what happens when someone else doesn't like it? When you do stick with your guns, and then once you send it out to agents or managers or producers, they just tell you that it's bad. The first thing I think of is the story of how Matt Damon and Ben Affleck sold Good Will Hunting. See, they did what any screenwriter would do. They sent it out to a bunch of different producers, and quite a few of them actually ended up liking it. But they couldn't decide who to go with. That is, until one of the production companies finally said, "So this is a very good screenplay, but what's with this random sex scene?" And that question is what finally made them sell it to Miramax. What? But why? Am I telling you to put a random sex scene in your script if you want to sell it? I mean, you could, but no, that's not what I'm saying. It was a scene where Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's characters have sex with each other. And if you've seen the movie, you probably know that's not actually a part of the story. They only did this for one reason, to see who actually reads it. Because they knew that the person who asked about that scene was someone who made it that far into the script, who enjoyed it enough to keep going and make it all the way to the end. The reason they did this was because they had so much confidence in their scripts. They were willing to say no to anyone who they didn't think was serious about making it. So if you truly want to see your script get made, you need to have confidence in it from the start. But how do you develop this? I mean, confidence isn't just something you can spawn out of thin air, is it? Actually, it is. And I'm going to show you how to do that. The thing most people get wrong about confidence is that it does kind of just spawn out of thin air. You might think something like, "Oh, once I write enough scripts, then I'll be confident." But this is just backwards. Back to Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. They had confidence in selling their script before they sold their scripts. And that's the key. You have to have confidence in yourself before getting success. To do this, just think about the outcome that you want. Maybe it's to sell your script for a certain amount of money, or to have it directed by a specific director. Whatever this is for you, just feel the feelings you'd have as though it was happening right now. And this doesn't mean like excitement or joy or whatever you think that might mean. It just means feel as though you'd feel as if it was completely normal. Like, how do you think Christopher Nolan feels when he sells a movie? Do you think he's feeling excited or jumping for joy? No, he just expects it. He knows that if he writes something, it's going to get made. It's normal for him. And that's the key to confidence. It's not believing, it's not hoping, it's knowing. Knowing that your script will be successful the same way that you know that when you flick on a light bulb, it's going to turn on.
All it takes is a little self-confidence. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
I actually put together a guided audio where I personally walk you through this feeling. So if you want to experience that yourself, just click the link below to download it right now. But even once you manage to cultivate this feeling, there's something you have to be very careful about. I had been working on my screenplay for months, and I was doing everything I just told you to cultivate this feeling of confidence, and I held it for a long time. But then I had a conversation with a talent agent, and I talked to him about my scripts. And you know the first thing that he told me? This kind of concept doesn't get made too often. How do you think that made me feel? I was ready to give up, to toss the script in the trash and stop trying to sell it altogether. I was just about to abandon it and start writing something completely different. And that's when it hit me. I let that event kill my confidence. Something that seemed like it stood in the way of achieving my goal threw me off, and I dropped that feeling. But then I sat with it and I quickly remembered, I know my film was going to be made. And I just recentered myself and I continued setting it out to other people. And you need to do the same. Even in the face of adversity, you need to maintain this feeling of confidence. But if something isn't going your way, how are you supposed to do this? I mean, isn't it completely delusional? Yeah. And that's kind of how you have to be. Delusional. The key is to stop worrying about the how. To stop asking yourself at every second, oh no, how am I going to sell this thing now? What if this route doesn't work? What am I going to do then? Just keep going. I use this example a lot, but you know that Stephen King was rejected 30 times before he sold Carrie? I mean, what would have happened if he gave up after 29 times? He wouldn't be Stephen King. We wouldn't have The Shining or It or, well, Carrie. So once you cultivate this feeling of confidence, your job is to be conscious as often as you can. When you sense yourself getting worked up or worried, first of all, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up to it. It's going to happen. I mean, it still happens to me. Hell, it still happens to Stephen King. Just reground and remind yourself that you know it's going to happen. Listen to my guided audio if it helps. Just do whatever you can to not fall out of that confident state of mind. By this point, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, Tucker, you're talking a lot about motivation and confidence and all this woo-woo mumbo-jumbo. That's great. But when are you going to talk about writing my screenplay? Well, imagine you're at a film festival. There's producers, there's agents, there's managers everywhere. I mean, you can easily just walk up to Jason Blum and strike up a conversation with him. So let's say it's you and your friend there, and you've read your friend's screenplay and it is absolutely horrendous. He didn't even format it properly. But when he talks about it, everyone can feel how much he loves it. He talks about it with so much passion and conviction. It lights up anyone who hears him. And then there's you. You agonized over for months on end, perfecting every turning point, making sure the climax hits with impact, but you're terrified no one's going to like it. I mean, you can't even look the producer in the eye when you bring it up to him. Which of you do you think is going to be more likely to sell your script? It's going to be the guy who's brimming to life with conviction and confidence. Do you understand now why the writing part will only take you so far? And I'm not saying that writing isn't important or that you don't need a great script. Of course you do. But I also don't want you to end up in rewrite hell, where you're in this cycle of sending your script out, getting feedback, changing it until it's unrecognizable, and then sending it out again, and then just repeating that loop over and over again. I promise you, if you can maintain confidence in the work you've already done, and if you truly get it to the best level you feel you can get it to, the rest of the work is in your conviction. You will meet the right person who loves your script, and even if it isn't there, they will be more than willing to help you get it to that level. But what if the script actually isn't good enough yet? What if you do have the confidence in yourself, and you know you're a good writer, but just on a story level, you can't seem to get it where you want it to be? If you want to learn everything you need to do to get your screenplay to that professional level, watch this video on how to do so by clicking this link here.